Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my final episode of Ask Me Anything for 2024. Now, one thing I've learnt in life is it's never too late to learn something new. So on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. For the last episode of 2024, we've gone right to the top. Why muck around? I've got the Prime Minister in, and he doesn't need any introduction, but we have the Right Honourable Christopher Luxon. Thanks for coming in.
How are we, Honourable Paula Bennett? Good to be with you.
I'm still honourable, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I deserve the title some days now that I'm in property, but there you go.
No, good to see you. How are you going?
Good to see you. Okay, I just got a little challenge because, we've seen that all the stats have come out recently about podcasts, and my most watched podcast this year, Amanda Luxon.
You're serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
very cool.
The challenge is on for you.
Now there'll be real competition on that.
There will be, won't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, people just loved it.
Oh,
loved
that's great.
it.
Oh, she's awesome. I mean, you can see why I married up.
Yeah.
I mean, she's so, she made me so much better. So it's awesome. So
yeah, and I think because they probably, I was going to say, because they probably didn't feel like they knew her as much as well, because she's a much more private person.
As you saw on election night. And
I did have to.
There's a lot more going on than Amanda's arms, so it's good that you got to see a bit more of that.
Yeah. So, okay, quick fire questions ease us in.
Yeah.
Dead or alive, who have you not met that if you had the opportunity you would like to sit down and have dinner or?
I would love to sit down with Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
I reckon that would be really interesting. And apparently I've read a lot of biographies of him. He had some great dinner parties, and he loved bringing really eclectic collections of people together for a dinner party. And I just think it'd be very interesting to see how he thought, and how he, just incredible.
Tenacity, eh?
Tenacity, just I know things are tough in New Zealand, but you just think about how tough it was for Britain facing essentially, the Blitz, all that stuff, and you just sort of think that's incredible. So I actually got to go to the war rooms in Downing Street, which is where he sort of ran a lot of the war before it became sort of a major tourism attraction. Mm-hmm. And I actually ended up to do one of my board meetings when I was living in London, actually in the map room where he was, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You do that now. But
just that history of it, and
so
you'd feel the weight of
history.
that.
Yeah, and he was probably the guy. When I was at Cockle Bay Primary School, when I sort of got into history, I remember this was the first book I got out probably at the age of 8 or 9 or something on Winston Churchill and impact on World War II. So it's just a fascinating individual, big character. I'm sure lots of flaws and lots of strengths, but just an incredible leadership and vision to get Britain through that period.
That actually segues quite nicely because you've read a lot of biographies, you've been interested in politics for years, you like that sort of stuff. Yeah. What do you think are the main attributes that a leader needs? Yeah,
look, I mean, that's really where it came from, was just sort of reading about leaders is kind of what I got into history, and then I just picked a leader to study each and every year. And it wasn't always a political leader, it might have been a business leader or a community person. And so, I mean, the key thing is setting a vision that people can buy into. Actually, I think making the most of the people that you're on the team, getting the team and the casting of that team right.
And could you see that in the consistency, of the reading that you were doing, that there were certain attributes that stood out for some of those remarkable leaders of the past and present?
So. I mean, the different personalities, you think about introverts versus extroverts and where they get their energy from. Classic cases, I'm a big extrovert. I get energy from engaging with people, and that refuels me up. Whereas Amanda probably is more of an introvert, although very gregarious. But she needs to go for a 12K run and actually process her day. And then, there's so different personalities. But actually, the common traits of leadership is, I think, can you have massive, determination for the cause that you're leading for, but also stay humble. And I think the best leaders I've met are actually those that have massive amounts of personal humility, but have massive amounts of professional determination to actually drive for the cause, whether they're leading a country, a business, or a community organisation. I think that's the best leaders I've seen can do both those things at the same time. Not make it about them, but make it about the cause and do that well. You see a lot of egomaniacs in politics, business and community organisations. It's all about them.
Yeah.
And they're not quite as developed, I think, as leaders as a result.
Yeah. When John was the Prime Minister, he always used to say to people, this is Paula, and she's actually not as high maintenance as she appears.
When you were 18th most successful deputy prime minister.
Hey, so let's talk about your core values. What are they and where did they come from?
Yeah, look, I think it really comes from mum and dad. I was really fortunate. I had an awesome mum and dad. They had me really young. They'd left school at 15 and 16 themselves, and they just taught us really good work ethic and values. My mum, I encouraged her to come to university. When I got to university, I was the first in my family to go there, and I didn't know anybody who had really been to university when I was wanting to go in high school. But I got there and I thought, Mum, you're uber smart. You got to come here. And she came and did her diploma in social work. And so it was quite funny in my second or third year at uni. And then Mum got into it. By the time my brother got to university, she was doing the relationship sex education counselling sort of show on the university radio from time to time, which was I'm sure more embarrassing for Matthew than for me. But it was so I think they were really, really good. They just taught us that actually, and Mum with the way she went through social work and counselling was always, making me and my brothers sort of be very conscious of people that were different from ourselves. And she always said, say, walk across the room and talk to someone that's different from you. So I think we were just raised with sort of, we've got lots of different skills. There's 3 boys that are very, very close, but actually very different personalities. And I was good at academics and sports, and my other brother's very highly creative, and Matthew's awesome with people. And we were raised to appreciate those things as being equal and different.
Yeah,
and that was really cool. And then my dad was just a positive, optimistic guy. My grandfather was essentially an alcoholic, and my dad was the oldest of 5 boys, and he really changed the course of parenting, I think, in our family, and was a very intentional sort of dad and wanted to do better and break a pattern of being a better dad.
Yeah,
and
wow.
So when I was 30, I remember writing him a letter just thanking him for changing the course of fathering in our family quite a bit. And but he's just such an optimist and such a born positive optimist. And despite having come from a challenging situation, and he just conveyed that to me. He says, if you work hard, mate, you don't let your circumstances define where you've come from, and you can do anything you want to do. And they really set us up, so well to do that.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And Amanda, when I was talking to her, she's certainly talked about both of your expectations on parenting and on being present as a parent.
Yeah.
And she talked quite a lot about that, and how important that was really for both of you.
Yeah.
It must have been challenging over the years because you've had such big roles.
I think the thing is, Amanda and I met when I was 15, and so we were sort of dating at 19, married at 23, and then very quickly after we got married, probably that first year, we were then off overseas for 16 years. And so we, as a couple, had to work out with our jobs and our careers and all of that stuff, and bouncing around between Sydney, London, Chicago, Toronto, New York, and then having our kids along the way. William was born in Australia, Olivia in the UK, but they were really raised in Chicago. As a foursome, we became a really tight unit. And because we didn't have grandparents or uncles or aunties or family around us as we tried to juggle, life with work and home. So I think from the parenting point of view, I read a lot. I actually, I'm a big reader, and I believe you can drive a lot of your self-learning, and propel that yourself. So, and each of my kids have very different personalities, as all of ours do. And the way you consistently, the big fear that we have as parents is that we're not going to transmit our values to our kids, And we were in a much better material position, say, than my parents raising me. But the point was, I wanted the values that my parents had, that I had, transferred to my children, despite the fact that our circumstances might be different from what they were. But the principles or those values being transmitted and were important. I remember, like, my dad, when I wanted to buy a bike, my first 2-wheeler bike, and he said, righto, Chris, what sort of bike is it that you want? I said, well, it's either a Rally 20 or a Healing Cruiser 3-speed, of course. And he said, okay, I'll tell you what, you've got to hit the Herald, the front page. The Herald used to have classified ads. Young people listening to this won't know what we're talking about. But he said, you take 3 weekends and you call up and you ask every question about the Healing Cruiser bike, and then in 3 weekends' time, you and I'll go out and we'll buy a bike. And so he had trained me to say, sir, I see you've got a Healing Cruiser for sale. Is it the 3-speed or the 1-speed? Does it come with any extras like a dynamo or a light or a carrier? What's the tread on the tyre like? Is the condition of the paintwork, has it got any scratches anywhere? And then I would go through this whole process of he would teaching me how to do research on this stuff. And then we went out, and for $100, I bought my first second-hand bike, Now, that principle of what Dad was teaching me was actually useful for when you do a job, take a job contract, or you buy a house, or you do a bunch of other things in life, buy a car. And the principles of what he was trying to teach me were really important. But now you sit there and go, well, it's easier for us just to go down to the warehouse and buy a new bike. But how do I make sure I get those principles along to my kids, even though the circumstances might be different?
Yeah, I understand.
So I think that's the key thing, is you want those same values of hard work. So, we've had quite a lot of thinking, intentional with the kids about how they manage the finances, that they've had to have part-time and full-time jobs if they're part-time or full-time studying at different times. We try not to do too much helicopter parenting. We let them feel the consequences of the decisions and choices that they make, and particularly as you go through those teenage years. And now we're in this delightful phase where I've got a 25 and a 23-year-old.
It's quite different now.
It's cool, 'cause you get to be their friend, not just their parent.
So do you find the time? I mean, how does that manage? And do you worry at all about them, I suppose, I want to say from a safety perspective, but equally from a mental health safety perspective, or, social media, or, I mean, you get a lot of crap thrown at you, and I get it, been there.
Yeah.
But equally, you've chosen it, and so you step in and you can sort of rise above that, and you're too bloody busy to think about it, I bet. But sometimes your kids, I often used to say to people, if you're thinking about politics, you're taking your whole family.
You are, and I observe that from outside, watching families and politicians with their families deal with the whole pressure of it all. And I think it's only got worse, frankly, as in the current environment. But, for me, I really want Amanda and the kids to be able to carry on their lives as normal as possible without it being defined by what their dad does, for example. And
is that happening?
Yeah, it's happening. So, we never are talking politics at home inside. Nothing has changed for us. My kids may or may not know where I am on any given day of the week, or what I'm actually up to doing. And I love that, because we're all informed, but we're not consumed by what's going on the social media stuff. And my kids are really good in terms of their social media. The way we were bringing them through the teenage years was to be a bit thoughtful and intentional about that stuff too. So, and the reality is, one of my daughter's overseas, so it probably makes life a little bit easier for her in some ways. And then, for William and Olivia, and Amanda, Amanda's awesome. She can join us on a visit to Japan when the First Lady's invited her there, and talk to women at women's universities, and very comfortable doing that, or an orphanage in Fiji or wherever. But equally then can get back to her life as well. And I think that's important. So as a family where this will come and go. It doesn't define who we are. It's what I happen to do, but it's not who I am. So we sort of just keep things. I don't think anything's changed within our internal dynamic.
Yeah, good.
And I think frankly, coming to politics when the children were older and quite, they're really grounded, happy, healthy sort of.
Yeah, I didn't go in until my daughter was 18.
Yeah.
I just felt like.
Similar, Just that little bit. I think if you're coming through, that middle school, high school period, it's challenging at times.
Yeah, I think either really young or a bit older like that. You know what I mean? Like really young, it's all they know, and so it's kind of their norm.
But it's the same thing. You've got to keep really balanced, because you're giving out a lot of energy in this job, as you would have found. And so actually having your family and your friends really grounded, and the same people that have been doing life with you with all its ups and downs, that actually care about you because of who you are, not because of what you do, is actually important.
All right, we're 1 year in.
Yeah.
What surprised you when you became Prime Minister?
Probably there's a hang of a lot of reading, as you'd remember. There's a briefcase that arrives at 10:30 every night. There's a lot of materials to get through. I'm used to doing a lot of that stuff, but the quantum is a lot of paperwork, a lot of briefings.
And of course, as a Prime Minister, you have to be across it all. It's not like you just, I could sort of make the excuse that it's not my portfolio.
Yes.
I'm not involved in that, whereas you've got a role.
But it's fascinating, right? And if you're curious and intellectually curious, which I am, that mastering of that material is actually something you really quite enjoy, because they're quite hard, complex issues. Often it looks simpler from the outside, but there's often, as you would know, very layered. There's a lot of other considerations and thinking you've got to get straight. So I think having watched previous Prime Ministers do the job up close, both Jacinda and John, and sort of got a sense of what the job was about, that hasn't surprised me per se.
Were you surprised though, like with all of those briefings that you're getting? I was kind of surprised with, and I don't mean this at all disrespectfully, I am a public servant now, but I was surprised at how disconnected they were from real people a lot of the time. I'd just be reading and just go, no one in Auckland would agree or do that. Or
I think that's one of the advantages I have is that I've come to politics, as you know, from outside 4 years ago. So I'm not a career politician, and that means I make mistakes from time to time, and I don't express things the way I possibly could, as polished as I possibly should. But I actually think it's a really good thing because I go to Wellington, as you know, a lot of my team are Wellington based. A lot of our officials and advice are, and they're fantastic people. You know, they're amazing, incredible, smart, intelligent folk. But I do think that outside-in perspective is actually really quite critical. And that's why, you know, I do, and right from when I came to politics, and it's the way I ran businesses as well, I just believe you've got to get to the front line and see people for real as to what's going on. And that's really helpful then when you've got those engagements with individuals or organisations, that when you're back in Wellington reading those briefing papers, you're going, right, now I've seen something like this that doesn't quite work like that in practice, and therefore you can ask some sharper questioning about why we're doing it this way versus another way.
Yeah, okay. And so how many hours are you working?
Quite a lot. I mean, I sort of get up at 4:35 most mornings and I'm ready to go. And then, if it's a Parliament week, I'll work in the office to 12 or 1 typically, because it's just a lot to catch up on.
And Amanda doesn't know, so you can do that extra couple of hours.
I'm basically coming into Wellington for a few days during the Parliament week, and then I'm back home, typically, or going somewhere. I've been in Invercargill yesterday and back home to Auckland late last night, and bouncing all around the place, right?
Yeah. So it's a lot of hours, eh?
It is, but I think I come to the job because I had quite extreme jobs at a young age in my former career outside of New Zealand, and so it wasn't uncommon for me to be, going to Argentina for the day and then back home to Chicago, or I'd be in London, I'd be off to Japan for 2 days and then back. And I've always been really ruthlessly efficient with time. I remember I used to have a board meeting in London every second week, and I'd do full day work on Monday, go home, do bed, bath time, dinner time, catch the 9 o'clock flight, sleep over the plane, get off at 7 in the morning London time, do my board meeting, stay one night, agree with the chairman, I'd leave at 2 o'clock the next day and get home for 6 o'clock for bed, bath time, dinner time in Chicago again. So I've been used to working, pretty extreme.
And quite structured. Do you need a lot of sleep?
I probably would like more, but I can survive on 4 or 5 hours sleep.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And then, so you're going to take a break over, over that summer period?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to,
I tend to find, actually, I think the trick in my job is you have to be fully engaged with what you're doing right here, right now. So you and I are doing this conversation. There might be a gazillion emails, there might be other stuff going on, but we're doing this. And I always hate it when I used to see politicians actually trying to be at a meeting but on their phone or not really there or just tick boxing their way through it. We're either doing this and it's important or it's not. Yeah. And I used to find that in business. You're having a meeting, well, we're here to make a decision. We're not here to eat our breakfast and to check our emails and to do our laptop while we're doing the same stuff at the same time. So it's the same on holiday for me, which is I still get up early and I will do reading before everyone wakes up. And so they don't see me with my work. And then I will maybe check something at lunchtime just very quickly. And then I'll check again in the evening when everyone's gone to bed again. And that's the way I did it with the kids growing up as well. I never wanted my kids to see me with a mobile phone on the weekend. And so I watched too many dads going to soccer games in the US and trying to do email at the same time, and the kids pick it up and they know that dad's not really paying attention to me. And
not engaged.
And that's why I think the power of full engagement, we're doing what we're doing because it's important and it's on the calendar and it's in the schedule for a reason. So we owe it to people to give them our full attention. So so it's more like it's a bit like a tennis game all the time, life. I don't think it's like blocks of time where you're free and then blocks of time where you're really working. For me, it's like I serve, we play a point, then I go walk about around the back of the court right as I reset again for the next serve. And it's a bit like that, on, off, and you take the moments that you've got as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I got better at it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you learn from it?
I just sort of, I call it right now, be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Because I've got so many different hats that I'm wearing that like like I just sort of go, actually, this deserves this attention. And then I literally push back and go, no, actually, I've put that day aside for Farmax work, So
or spending time with your mum or whatever it is.
Whatever that is. And so I've gotten very much more protective of that. Yeah. But I remember, I don't know, there was some mini crisis going on and we went to go to the movies, and as we walked in, I was texting.
You got to go back.
And I was texting to let the Prime Minister know that I was in the movies because it was Sunday afternoon, right? And we'd planned this date, my husband and I for weeks and everything else. And I just remember Alan, who was the most patient man in the world, just put his hand out and he just went, "You've got to be kidding."
Yeah.
you know? And I just thought, actually, that's just so fair.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, an hour and a half, you know, like really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of the view, look, and I think for my staff that are around me, it's, sometimes challenging because I am extrovert and I want to engage and talk to people, but they'll grab me if there's something really urgent or someone will get hold of me.
You got to trust that, right?
You got to trust that. And the system works well and you've got great people around you.
Well, you've got security around you all as well. Like, if it really comes to it, they can ring them, can't they? And go, go grab them. This one's really important.
They're a big part of the family now as well.
Are they?
Yeah.
Has that been weird? Because it was quite funny. John loved it and Bill, I wouldn't say put up with it, but you know what I mean? Like,
I think, again, it gets back to if you're an extrovert or an introvert a little bit. And so if you're an introvert that just needs time and space away from people, given your job is to be with people basically all day. And if you're an extrovert like me, the more the merrier. So Amanda and I, have really consciously from the beginning, we really appreciate the role that the team does to keep us safe.
Have you broken the rules?
No, I haven't. I've been pretty good.
You wouldn't tell me anyway. But
no, I wouldn't.
I remember because John broke the rules.
Yes.
He one day he said, because he his relaxing was cooking, and he said, I was cooking away and I needed cream. Yeah. And he said, I just said, I'll just walk to the shop and grab a bottle of cream. So he didn't tell anyone, walked out, and he said he just got, like 50 metres down the road, and they turned on the sirens and everything to teach him a little lesson.
No,
he probably told
he
that
does
story.
need a lot of teachable lessons.
Well, he does, and then he probably did it again just to write them up.
I sort of follow the instructions a lot.
But you've been good, and you've done better than that. Okay, how do you handle the criticisms?
Again, be informed but not consumed by it, because I think the key thing is if I looked at my social media at 4:30 in the morning and what everyone's got to say about me, good, bad or otherwise, you wouldn't get out of bed. You'd get back into the embryo position and pull the covers up and probably not get out. So I think, the realisation is, look, there's a bunch of people on one side and there's a bunch of people on the other side. They're pretty locked in with their views. And so you're trying to find that sort of centrist sort of voice of reason. Yeah. But also you need to listen to it because there's good feedback in that as well. But I think the bigger point for me is I came to politics to do a job, which is I feel deeply passionate. This country has so much potential, and having lived overseas for 16 years and seeing the opportunity for New Zealand to do so much better, to lift our standard of living and all that good stuff, that I'm so connected to the mission and purpose. I'm not a career politician. I could choose to do a lot of other things. I choose to do this job because I want to do this job. And I think it's like everything in life. When you're connected to mission and purpose, you don't want to get bounced around by the pundits and the commentators and the media and the polls and all that sort of stuff, because frankly I could go back and look at what everyone's written about me over the last 4 years and it's flip-flopped and it's moved around all over the place.
Any
so
particular
the
day,
point
right?
is, well, why would you do exactly that?
Okay, so do you have to be liked? Because Key and Ardern kind of did. Would they like to be liked?
I think everyone wants to be liked, right? I think it's a basic human thing. But for me, I'm here to do the job, and I'm really determined that we are going to deliver and do things better than we have done. And so that means I'm not afraid to make the tough decisions and pull the trigger and make the hard calls. So I'm probably less hung up on being liked. But I think ultimately at a personal level, I think we all want to be liked, right?
So I'm really aware of your time, and I know that you're going to have to run right now. So let's end with my advice piece.
Oh, yeah.
So if you had a 15 or 16-year-old in front of you now, what life advice would you give to them?
Who you are matters a lot more than what you do. It's what I would say to all the schools I talk to most weeks, and the leaders and the prefects there. And what I mean by that is actually lots of smart people. You can do lots of things with your brain and your talents that you've got, but actually who you're becoming as an individual or a person, I think matters a lot more than what you've done. I've met a lot of successful people in life who actually end up climbing a ladder, trying to get the job title and material success or whatever it is that motivates them to think that they are successful, only to find when they're 70 years old they climbed the ladder on the wrong wall. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I do think, how do I take the skills, abilities and experiences I've been given and hook it up to a purpose bigger than myself to live a life of success and significance? And I think that's the key, and not significance in a public sense or a private, it could be private sense or whatever. So I think that who you are matters a lot more than what you do. And the second thing I always say is, look, take the job really seriously, but never yourself. Yeah. And I'm a big believer of that. We have a lot of fun, even though we're in really tough and difficult times and situations and decisions that we have to make. But there's nothing worse than someone who takes themselves way too seriously and just creates so much intensity and whereas I just think we can have we take our job really, really seriously. I work really hard at it. I want to be really good at it. But it means that I don't have to take myself that seriously.
Yeah, good on you. Look, I just wish you and your family a really happy holidays.
Yeah,
and a Merry Christmas.
Because you've had a big year.
I have had a big year, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm literally going to take a few weeks and enjoy this beautiful country.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be sunshine.
Yeah, I think it will be too. It's
How's your fishing?
It's pretty average.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to improve again this summer with Amanda and I go out on the boat, but
me and Alan do
as well. And but you are much more proficient than me. You've got a bit of you're both gun fishermen, to be honest. So we might catch 40 centimetre fish rather than sort of your monsters that you're doing. But it's actually just the time in a boat, just chatting and doing something different and a different energy. It's just so much fun. So
enjoy.
But to everyone just listening in, just kind of say refresh, recharge, spend time with your loved ones, make some new memories and giddy up for a good year next year.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and that's a wrap for this year and season 6 of Ask Me Anything. I have got the best job in the world. I love doing this. I'm so grateful to you all for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. We've had some amazing guests in 2024, so make sure you check out some of the old episodes. Go and listen to Amanda because she is absolutely a stunning woman, and I really enjoyed my interview with her. I hope you all have a wonderful summer, and we'll be back in March. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.